Here's Sand Chapter A entitled School. Simon jumped on the bus as usual, and he arrived at school with a heavy heart. He couldn't wait for the lessons to be over. It was torture. But eventually the lessons did end. In the midst of his anguish, he'd had an idea. He decided to visit the nearest supermarket and check out the dog food. When he did, he was amazed at the rows of dog food on offer. There were so many varieties. There were tins of various colours and shapes and exotic flavours. The dog biscuits looked so appetizing that they made his stomach rumble. He was tempted to even try one himself. Eventually, he chose the most basic brand and stuffed it into his bag along with a big bag of dog biscuits. Sandy's in for a treat tonight, he thought with satisfaction. He walked home and he was pleased that the snow was melting along with the footprints. It was a good sign, he thought, as he rushed to the outhouse. He prized the can open and its odour sent Sandy wild. He scooped the meat into the bowl and its glassy jelly made it look a lot like sponge pudding. Sandy shoved her nose into the meat and ate quickly, the jelly hanging comically from her nose. Simon went inside with the bowl to fill it with water. He was glad it was still winter and he could hide under the cloak of darkness. He didn't want to see the neighbours' curtains twitching. He knew that his dad would throw Sandy out into the cold streets. Alf had a heart like black ice, nothing could warm it. When he'd returned, Sandy had licked the plate clean. She's a good dishwasher, Simon thought with a smile. Sandy lapped up the water and she was glowing with contentment. They say that dogs are a man's best friend, and he was starting to agree. His life had taken on new meaning, and he felt like it was mutual. He really wanted to take her out for a walk, but it was too risky. Alf would be back soon, and he would have a list of jobs for him to do before he got home. There was no time for homework, and Simon rushed back inside and switched on the hoover to pick up the biscuit crumbs that littered the carpet like a secret trail. After that, he had the bathroom to clean, and woe betide him when his dad was to inspect it and find something amiss. Simon didn't realize that not all teenagers lived this way, but that didn't make it any less painful. He scrubbed the toilet with the dirty toilet brush and he polished the mirror until it shone. It reflected an unhappy face back to him. Simon jumped as the front door slammed. He was back. Hello, his dad bellowed. Get down here now. Simon ran down the stairs as fast as he could. I've hoovered the biscuits up, Dad, he stammered. That's good, son. Now make my tea on the double, he said with false praise. Simon looked in the bare cupboard in panic. All that he could see was a big tin of ravioli. He grabbed it and pulled it out. How's this, Daddy? He said hopefully. Alf didn't look happy, but with his stomach rumbling like a subway train, he gave in. Open it, he said, and he ambled towards his favourite armchair with the beer already frothing in his hand. Simon clattered about looking for the tin opener. It was impossible to do it quietly. Keep quiet, I'm busy watching TV here, his dad said angrily. Finally, he found it. It was so rusty, he had to press down with the palm of his hand to puncture the tin. He, he burst the lid open and watched as the ravioli spilled into the pan, looking like a red avalanche. He turned on the ring and waited for it to go red and the sauce to bubble. It seemed to take an age. Finally, it was ready, and Simon placed it on a tray and carefully carried it to his dad, who sat like an impatient king awaiting a banquet. His dad looked down at the little pillows of ravioli, and he didn't look impressed. Grabbing the spoon bear-like in his fist, he scooped it up and swallowed. Simon waited for the verdict. Different, his dad said contemptuously, but not bad. Now then, son, he said, I expect more next time. You need cooking lessons to keep up with my appetite. Sorry, Dad, Simon muttered. I did my best. That's okay, lad, his dad muttered. I'll give you extra jobs for that debacle, he added cruelly, and he smiled at his own cruelty. Simon wasn't sure what debacle meant, but he knew it wasn't good. Now bring me another beer. This one is empty. Simon sighed to himself, but he couldn't look displeased. Any sign of dissent would be punished. Turn the TV over, Alf barked, and Simon did as he was told. And then he went into the kitchen to wash up and get some peace and quiet. All the while he was thinking of Sandy with a heavy heart. Tra-la-la. He could hear his dad shouting insults at the TV and swallowing his food noisily. Simon sighed and continued with his work. He felt guilty leaving Sandy in the cold outhouse, but he was better than being on the cold London streets, he reasoned. Simon loved the warm feeling of the water on his fingers. It was a pleasant sensation. The kitchen was cold and the bedroom was cold. The only warm room was the living room where his dad lived. Simon had to make do with a lumpy mattress and thin blankets. It was so cold that he often slept with a jumper on and his school trousers and socks still on. He looked out of the lightly frosted window and wished he could sneak out and give Sandy a biscuit. It was such a relief that she wasn't allowed Barker, or they both would be caught for sure. Take this plate away, his dad bellowed, and Simon ran into the living room, leaving his daydream hanging. Alf thrust the empty plate into his hands without a thank you and ordered another beer. Simon did as he was told. The beer was ice cold, just as he liked it. Open it, his dad said. Can't you see I'm busy watching TV? Oh, and another thing, don't forget to take me match of the day tonight. I'm having an early night tonight, and like you, I work hard for a living, he spat out. Simon listened without comment. He was used to being ignored, and he couldn't answer back. His dad had a big fat belt hanging over an armchair that was ready to be used at any time. Simon could still feel the sting on his bottom after accidentally dropping a can of lager on the carpet and watching open mouthed as it slowly emptied into a frothy puddle. Coming up, Chapter 9.